And thank you for tuning in to the Rangers Rabble. Before we get to the content, I would just like to let you know about a brand new sponsor that we have, Rangers Pools. For every £1 that you spend, you help support the building of the new Edmiston House. And if you sign up with the code Rangers Rabble Podcast, you're also helping the podcast as well. So, Wilf, I know that you've used Rangers Pools before.
I have indeed, Mark, and I use it every week. I've got two lines on the direct debit. I play every week. It's very easy to navigate. You just go on, make yourself an account, go onto the pools page. You can either do it weekly or, as I do, just with a standing order of numbers. It's from memory. I think it's 10. The first 10 games you think are going to be score draws in the coupon every week. But football's that random. I just said, right, that'll be 10 numbers. That'll be 10 numbers. There's my £2 every week, and let's just see what happens.
We'll see, there you go. So it's dead easy to use. And of course, if you do sign up in the supporter branch agency, if you just put in Rangers Rabble Podcast, you're helping support Rangers, support the building of the new Edmiston House, but you're also helping to support the Rangers Rabble Podcast. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the content.
Okay, moving on to like sort of your side of the business, bringing in the money and obviously helping the academy. Obviously, in the last year or so, we've seen some additions from out with the academy in terms of like the money that you give to the club. Guys like James Graham from Ross County, Tony Weston from Blackpool, Charlie Lindsay from Motherwell. Without getting into too much detail with these guys, because clearly we've not seen a hell of a lot of them due to lockdown and things. When you hand over that money, and obviously the club are out, buying these young guys like young Scottish youth internationals and stuff like that, what does that mean to you when you obviously see these kids coming in and you know that a fee's being paid for them and things like that? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think, obviously, we work on the business side down at Ibrox. I think, and certainly when we pass the cash over, if you like, that's where my involvement stops, if you like. Obviously I have no involvement, and it shouldn't be. I'm not a football person, so I shouldn't really have any say involvement. When it's over to Craig and his team to kind of choose who to buy, I think we can all say that we're doing that process, if you like, is working really well. I mean, my role really is just to, with my team to raise as much funding as we possibly can. It's been certainly been a challenge over the past sort of like year and a half, I guess. But we're doing okay, and we're kind of hanging on in there. The more funding we can give to the academy, then obviously the more Craig can actually do with it. Whether that's purchasing new players, whether that's buying new equipment, whether it's hiring new coaches, that's obviously up to Craig to do something. So I just satisfy myself that the more we give, the more we are helping, if you like. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the icing on the cake, if you think, for us. We do what we do, and we love to give the money over, but we always take a lot of joy. Certainly, for example, we mentioned Nathan earlier. To see Nathan come through and know that we played sort of like that part, and Nathan getting through to the first team. That's kind of our praise, and what we when I say to my staff, they think I'm mad at times. I think so I say, but you played your little part in that, So and it's a fact, without finance in any walk of life, things don't happen. So it's really the role of RYDC through Rangers Lotto and the halftime draw and stadium bricks and a Rangers quiz, etc., and scratch cars and draws, raffles, etc. So through the profits from doing all of that, and handing it across to Craig and his team, that's our joy every year, and our challenge, if you like, to try and improve on the previous year's funding, So, and in my time, I'm quite pleased, I guess, and an element of pride in that. It's about £9.5 million we've given over to the academy, as well as, and I think this is important as well. We've also given away, I think it's about £10.5 million in prize money to Rangers fans. You know, so collectively, roughly 20 million we've kind of given to, if you like, the Rangers family. You know, 9.5 to the academy. You know, 10.5 in prize money to Rangers fans, and I think that, you know, that's kind of important as well. You know, to know that we're actually giving back to fans. You know, who are playing our games and buying tickets for whatever, and they can benefit as well. You know, so I like to think we're doing some good. You know.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me, I mean, I know we've obviously quite a few discussions, obviously, in your office a few times about things, and speaking to Craig. See, like, obviously, the summer before when we got Charlie Lindsay, that was a big deal in a lot of people's eyes, you know, the fact that Rangers were able to go and get him. So clearly the money that you managed to bring in through, like, the lotto, the bricks, I mean, that's the kind of player that Rangers can afford to bring in now because of, you know, the funding that the club gets from yourself. And to me, that's important that people understand that as well. Clearly, we would love everybody to come into the academy 8 or 9 years old and they could develop into the first team. But I think, as we spoke about earlier on, you'll always need to add players here or there.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the game. I mean, obviously, Josh McPake came in for Hibs. You know, Josh wasn't at Rangers from 9, 10 years old. You know, we added Josh further down the line. We've added James Maxwell further down the line. So that's where this money becomes important. And obviously, Tony Weston's come in for Blackpool, James Graham for Ross County. So, like, you do need to have, like, the funds available to go and get these guys. Yes, it is nominal fees at times, but at the end of the day, this is a budget that Craig's got to work within, and this is what he's got to use. So you've got to be smart with it. So my whole big thing's always been, like, the more people that sign up to it, the more that we can go and do as a club. You know, we can do more trips, we can sign more players, we can do more as an academy in terms of the best versus best games. I thoroughly enjoyed those. And I know some of the funding for that obviously came, you know, from yourself as well in terms of the money that was passed over. And I think that's one thing maybe that supporters who are watching these should understand, that, you know, the money's not just for one thing. It's for a multitude of things. It's literally to go towards so many different things that the actual academy runs with.
Yeah.
And I know, speaking to, you know, Craig and Greg and Craig a few times, you know, every penny is valuable because there's so much that can get done with that money.
I mean, it's true. You know, when I first joined, you know, our funding went to the club, and it just kind of was swallowed up, I guess. You know, in day-to-day costs and running and whatever. And I'd said at the time, you know, we were giving across, I think it was about £500,000 a year, and I'd said, look, where does this money go? What can we pin it on? And they said, oh, it just does this, that, and it just maybe paints the stairs and it does that. And I thought, do you know, that's maybe a change there, sort of thing. So going to be back then, you know, and you know, I had a chat. Dick Advocat was the manager at the time, and it was a whole Dutch squad were up there at the time, you know, and Jan Derks was in charge, and John Gregg was involved. Actually, Tom McLean was involved at the time as well. And I remember having a meeting, and we said, you know, at the time, I said, look, you know, we're thinking of changing the direction of our funding to just sort of general maintenance, I guess, at the club, to the academy, and you know, what benefits would that give to the academy? And Jan Derks, to be fair to him, you know, he got it right away, and obviously Greggy did, of course, and that's what, I mean, that must be about 18 years ago now, you know, and we kind of saw the benefit of transferring the money across the profits over to the academy, and I think if you looked at the academy then and versus where it is now, and that's why I was saying earlier on, you know, what Craig's been able to do, it is a different animal. It's apples and pears. It's night and day sort of thing, you know, which is great. And yeah, you know, I can't say, Craig would have to say that, to be fair. You know, where exactly the money has gone, because I mean, you go up there now, and as I say, it just looks like a professional operation. You know, there's physios, masseurs, we've got our own doctor. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of coaches. There's forever someone walking past me that I've never seen before because we've just been recruited, because we've got the funds to do that. And that's as it should be. The Rangers Football Club, that's how it should be. You know, it's a professionally run setup at the academy, and I'm quite proud of it, to be honest with you. And I'm quite proud that we've got a part to play in it. You know, but yeah, I mean, I'm aware that, you know, the more we can give, and it's a push every year for us to do what we can do. Certainly, it's been a challenge. We've probably lost about £2,000 a week, to be honest with you, and people being furloughed out the job sort of thing, there's not a lot they can do about it, so it's a constant challenge, and I know, and it's a pressure that sometimes keeps me awake at night. If we drop that funding to Craig, what does that mean? What does that mean for the academy? Does that mean that bit there stops, or this bit there can't happen, or God forbid that coach has to go because I haven't given enough money across?
Yeah.
So it's to be honest, it's a serious drive that keeps us going. Without the fans, excuse me, and the fans funding, just wouldn't happen, to be honest with you. So fingers crossed that once we get the fans back in the stadium, etc., we can start to recover some of that lost funding. So we've just recently launched Rangers quizzes, which, to be fair, the idea of it, I was filling up a skip. I was in the garden one day and I was filling up a skip. I thought, I know what we need. Everyone was doing quizzes during lockdown, so we started the Rangers quizzes. But to be blunt, we're not getting enough people playing them just now, because they were designed purely for big screens on match day. So you imagine 51,000 people, and there's a quiz that literally lasts 4 minutes. It's fast and furious, and it's all Rangers quiz. It's great. So it's a halftime quiz. It's all day long. It's a halftime quiz, So, but what we need is the games back. We need fans back, so that we can actually play and benefit and actually start to bring that money in, so that I can give Craig as much money as we possibly can, because that's our role. As I say, I know we're talking about all the kids and how they're doing, etc. These are my personal views, not my kind of RYDC view, because that's not my role. I love talking about it because I'm a Rangers fan, So, but certainly on a business side, my role is to bring in as much money as possible, and it's been hard over the past year. There's no question, a year and a half, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can start to get some people back playing Rangers Lotto, etc., to get some cash in, so we can give it to Craig, and Craig can continue to find more Nathan Pattersons and etc. So there's a direct correlation, to be honest with you, with the money we give and how well the academy is actually doing.
No, we'll certainly stick all the links below this pod when it goes out, and we'll put some of them on Twitter and anywhere else that we can put them all out to try and push that, because at the end of the day, the more money the club gets, the better it is for the academy, the better it is for the young players coming through, and the betterment for Rangers as a football club in general, really. Yeah. So to me, it's a no-brainer, and it's certainly something that I'm passionate about, a bit like yourself. So we'll certainly keep pushing that. On to the last little bit we're going to chat about is you're obviously a director of the Former Players Benevolent Club. What is it that actually means to you, and what is it that actually does for ex-players, Colin? That's a role I've got at the club that I'm quite proud of, to be honest with you. John came to see me one, and I'd known John for quite a few years, because John Gregg is very passionate about youth development, and very early on, when I mentioned there that we had a meeting with Jan Derks, John was sat beside me that day, and from then on, that's 18 years ago, John and I have been quite close in terms of youth. He loves it. He's now a director of RYDC. John's a director and keeps up to date with how things are going. And John came to see me one day, and the Rangers Former Players Benevolent Club is a charity. It was formed by the late great Sandy and Colin Jackson, Bomber Jackson, John and Peter McCloy. So the four Barca heroes started the charity because they saw a need, I think, to help and support a lot of players who let's be blunt, did not earn money playing football. If you go 50s, 60s, 70s, early 80s, to be honest, those players had to get jobs when, I'm not pouring my heart out here, but, because footballers are blessed, if you like, but they had to get jobs back then when they finished. Some of the Barcelona team, had to go out and work, and it's crazy to actually think that players who won a European trophy and played in front of, 100,000 fans, had to go and work, but it's a fact, it's a fact. I remember wee Willie telling me that he said, son, he says, I knew that when I ran out there, sometimes if there was a guy in the crowd, 80,000, he says, I knew if there was a guy there, he was a foreman in one of those shipyards, he says, and he had some overtime that weekend, he earned more money than I did. He says, and I'm playing here, I'm a Scotland international playing in front of 80,000 people, and that boy who battered rivets into a ship earned more money than me. But that was a fact of life, So the Former Players Benevolent Club was launched to kind of help and aid
mostly, to be honest, mostly medical. For some of the boys who, as we speak now, are in their 70s and 80s, and let's be honest, that we're all falling apart at, at a certain age, So what we do is we help a lot of the boys. It's no secret because it's been out there that we help with a bit morbid, but we help with funeral costs for a lot of players. Fernando and a few others. We help with some of the boys are. I spoke to one of the Barca guys recently. I wouldn't name it. Wasn't John. One of the guys recently, and I said, "How are you doing?" And he says, "I'm falling apart." And I said, "What is it?" He says, "Knees, elbows, you name it, hips, everything." So it's just. He said it goes back to the day where if you complained to the physio or the manager that you were sore, they just stuck a needle in you. Right, get out and carry on playing. He says, so it's that combination of all these injections that they had in the sort of 60s and 70s. It comes home to roost, if you like. So what we do is we're a charity. We trust, I think, the fans to believe, we can't really telegraph what we're doing, because a lot of what we're doing is we're maybe helping someone out who has cancer, for example. We're maybe helping someone out who has to go into hospital for an operation. We can't tell people that, it's all very personal. So, and they're all household names, to be honest with you, so. We rely on fan donations, which has obviously been difficult recently because a lot of supporters clubs, for example, would have a function and send us a donation. Well, none of that's happening just now. Maybe a pub would have a donation, and they would, none of that's happening just now. So it's been quite difficult for the Former Players Benevolent Club just now. But you know what? We're still there. We're still, I spoke to John the other day and Peter the other day about helping out one of our former players who potentially needs a new hip, for example. So that's the kind of stuff that we do. But for me personally, it's I'm helping out guys that I kind of grew up. I was kind of at the age 12, 13, 14 in Barcelona. I was 12 at Barcelona, but during the kind of mid-70s when we won 2 trebles, Greggy and Sandy and wee Doddy and DJ and these guys, I'm now working with these guys and helping them, and and it's a bit of a dream, to be honest with you, to be helping guys that you actually watched and idolized, to be honest with you, and I've got all their phone numbers on this phone sitting here, and every time it rings and John Gregg comes up, I immediately take a step back and think, oh, John Gregg's phoning me, and he's phoned me 100 times. Well, he's phoned me 100 times, but I still think, oh, it's John Gregg, so, but that'll never change, so, because they don't see themselves that way, but they are legends, they are, and, the Rangers Former Players Benevolent Club is kind of our charity where we look after the players who gave us so much joy. The majority of them are on that Hall of Fame board, and they're guys who, as I mentioned earlier, didn't earn a lot of money and now need our help. So that's roughly what the Former Players Benevolent Club do. I could talk all day about it, all night about it, but it's a really worthwhile charity, I think, and because it's as I say, we're helping out mostly medical expenses with some of the guys that we idolised and watched, so I love doing that, actually. It's great.
So how can supporters actually help out? Sort of, can they go onto our website, or do they need to go to somewhere in particular to look at this, or to give a sort of donation or a direct debit list? Where can they go to do that, Colin?
Well, certainly for if we do the RYDC first, right. you can do all of that with rydc.co.uk. rydc.co.uk. If anyone wants to email us, rydc@rangers.co.uk. You can email us and we can talk to you. 0141 427 4914. But certainly the website is probably the first port of call. rydc.co.uk. That's the first port of call. In terms of the Former Players Benevolent Club, it's the if you imagine the letters, Rangers Former Players Benevolent Club, so rfpbc.org. Right. So that's .org. If you imagine the letters, rfpbc.org, and there's a donate button on there. I mean, if you've got £5 to give us, fantastic, that would be super. And we're actually starting to build that website up. So each week we're doing a series of Q&As with a lot of former players. I mean, last week we did Big Lorenzo,
Right.
We phoned Lorenzo out in Florence. Super. So that's going on. I think that might be on now, actually, the site. So you can read these Q&As. We did Arthur Newman. We did Big George Alberts as well. So we've got a pile of them all lined up. We put Graham Smith on the other day as well. That's Smitty's on there the other day. So fans can go in there, and read some of the Q&As from some of our great players. And it's just a different side from the club. It's not the current players, but it is players that of a certain age. Some of, like my son, for example, never saw Amoruso or Arthur Newman or or Alberts, for example. He never had the joy of watching. Hearing that thud when George hit that ball, that. So all of us who have a certain age who saw these guys, I think we're doing Michael Mulls quite soon. Go onto the Former Players website and read some of the Q&As. So and leave us £5 if you're able to. We'll appreciate that.
No, that's great, Colin. Thanks very much for giving up so much of your time tonight to come on to the
very
pod.
Welcome.
Hopefully we can help in some way further down the line. Also try to put as much on the website. We're going to have a new Rangers Rabble website up, so we'll put all the links on there. We'll put them on the bottom of this pod as well, so when it comes out, hopefully people can donate and help as much as they can. But just like you said earlier, it's a really difficult time for a lot of people, and we totally understand that not everybody's got the money, but any donation, whether it's to the Lotto, to the Bricks, whether it's to the Benevolent Club in some capacity, it's all going to a good cause. And hopefully, it goes to help people that really need it, especially guys, as you pointed out earlier, and a lot of us, they're legends. I mean, I grew up with my dad talking about these guys, and, certainly, I never really got to see any of them play, unfortunately. I was only born in 1982, but my dad certainly told me enough that I certainly, know enough about these guys without having seen them in action. I certainly grew up adoring them and loving them as much as I do the players from the 1990s and the thousands. So hopefully we can help in some way. But thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate that.
You're very welcome. And thank you for inviting me on anytime.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks to everybody who's listened in tonight. I say if you can help in any way, shape or form, we'll put all the links down below. And I'm sure Colin will really appreciate it, as well as all the ex-players and anybody at the academy as well. Thank you very much. Bye.